friends. Welcome back to the vlog. Today's video is going to be largely focused on me kind of settling into my new kind of 9-to-5 life, establishing the new normal of going into the office a couple days a week, working from home a couple days a week, and just kind of all the life that happens around that. I've technically already filmed about like a week of content, just like little bits and pieces. I thought it would be fun to show you some of the outfits I've been wearing for work because I've been having a lot of fun putting outfits together. And then just kind of some of the life that has happened around that. So if that is of interest, stick around. And if you're new here, my name is Mackenzie. This is my channel, Think Too Much. I like to post vlogs for the most part, and sometimes kind of apartment tour, fashion focused stuff, but mostly vlogs focused on my life in New York City as a late 20-something. So if that is of interest to you, definitely stick around. Yeah, but let's get into the video. I'm kind of taking like a little bit of a rest day this Sunday. So like Max is out, he's like meeting with a friend who's in town, and I was originally meant to go, but I've had some like weird kind of sleeping issues and like not to sound dramatic, but like dizzy spells this week. So I don't know, and I feel like I woke up this morning with like a lot of anxiety, and I do think part of that has to do with the fact that like we got a couple of drinks last night, and it wasn't like crazy by any means, but I'm old now, so I just don't need to drink a crazy amount for it to, you know, potentially affect me in certain ways. Anyway, so I woke up feeling like really anxious and kind of panicky, and I think too I'm just like tired, and I haven't quite like kind of recouped the rest that I missed out on this week when I was like struggling to fall asleep and like with the dizzy spells and everything. So I was kind of trying to listen to my body, and I told them to go on without me, have a good day, and I'm probably just going to be lazy at home. So that's what I've been doing. It's now about like 3 o'clock. I've mostly just been like watching Summer House. I just ran a couple of errands. I think I'm going to start editing, or not start, I think I'm going to edit a little bit of my video today just to like feel like I got something productive done. So I think that's what I'm about to do. It would be nice to straighten a little, but like again, I'm trying not to like put too much pressure on myself to like do too much. I'm just trying to like really kind of rest and like give my brain and body kind of a chance to decompress a little bit. I'm not fully sure what's going on, if it's just an exhaustion thing, if there's like a mental emotional component to it. I'm still kind of like working that stuff out, but anyway, that was a long-winded way for me to say that I am alone this Sunday afternoon. Max will be back at some point, but in the meantime, I'm just kind of entertaining myself. So yeah, I think I'm gonna edit the video. I might like make the bed. I'd love to watch more YouTube videos. Or some YouTube videos. I haven't watched any YouTube today, just Summer House. most part, I haven't been like pausing to like record and talk about what's happening. Hopefully it's all pretty self-explanatory. I'm definitely getting used to figuring out a recording schedule and like how to record with the new job and like just all the kind of structures. It has been a good weekend. It's been kind of an exhausting weekend, I won't lie to you. It's been fun though. We went out to watch the Warriors game. They're in like the finals right now on Friday, which was actually kind of a bummer, but like fun as an activity. And then last night we went out for a friend's birthday dinner, which was like, it was a dinner, but it started at like 9:30, so it became like birthday dinner, bar hopping, dancey vibes, which was so much fun. But I'm really fucking tired now, and I feel like gross. I went out a little bit today, which like you saw a teeny tiny sliver of. I thought I'd try to find like a raincoat because it's supposed to rain for the next few days here. But yeah, that's pretty much, that was my major thing for the day. I also posted my first video since being employed. It is technically a video of me while I am still unemployed. This is the first video while I'm employed, but it's the first video I posted while being an employed person since my last job, whatever. So that's exciting. It only took 4 weeks. But yeah, anyway. Why am I here? Why am I here alone? Why am I so comfortable talking to the camera? Thank you so much for asking. Max is gone for a concert tonight because he's a madman and he wants to go out every night this weekend. So he's out for a concert. He's going to see Arcade Fire. And in his absence, I straightened a little bit. I'm gonna order myself food, which I'm a little bit torn about. Like I kind of want to get Spicy Moon, which is yummy, but it's a little greasy. And we had like bagels for breakfast, which was also greasy because it was like a bacon, egg, and cheese, which was delicious, like wonderful hangover food. But I'm like, I need a vegetable, I need a fruit, I need like something that isn't terrible for me, I think, you know? So I'm a little bit like torn on what to do about that. But anyway, yeah, so I straightened up a little bit. It's kind of nice to have the bedroom feeling good. I'll straighten up the living room too. I'm gonna shower because I feel really gross. Like I said, it was muggy today and it's just like, feels a little hot in the apartment in a weird way and I don't like it. Yeah, I'm gonna watch Summer House, which I'm excited about. I think it might be the finale, question mark, I don't know. Yeah, and that's what's going on, just like a chill night in. Maybe I'll paint my nails. I've been wanting to paint my nails. It's tough though. I feel like painting nails for work, I'm like, it'd be fun to do like a fun color, but then I feel like it clashes more with like the professional wear. I'm probably gonna do red today because I lack imagination. Okay, I think that's everything. I hope I didn't ramble too much. Yeah, I'll check in later. Hey vlog, please pardon the fact that my head is cut off and I am orange now. That is the lighting in here at night. I ended up getting a burrito because I was going to get Spicy Moon. It sounded very good to me. But I like, you know, I washed my hair, so my hair's wet and it's like raining outside, whatever. So I was hoping to get delivery. And if I got what I wanted with delivery, it would have cost $70. Which just feels like an egregious amount of money to spend on takeout. I mean, it just is an egregious amount of money to spend on takeout for one person. So, on principle, I got a burrito from Caravan of Dreams, and I'm excited. I think it should be yummy. But I wanted to check in. Oh my god, I'm not gonna eat in front of the camera. Wow. Well, I guess I'm checking in to let you know that I got my burrito. And I'm probably gonna watch YouTube. I feel like I do want to talk. I want to, like, I'm having kind of my, like, little cozy night in. And I am enjoying it. Okay, also, I don't know if I mentioned that I was just watching Summer House. But I was just watching Summer House. It was delightful. Okay. Sorry, the TV was being weird. It was so fun. I kind of thought it was a season finale. It's not. That looks like it's maybe next week, or maybe I'm just delusional. Maybe it's just the show is continuing on. Oh my god, and Clara Pierce posted a vlog. Oh, guys, it's a great night. It's a great night. Having fun. I'm having fun. Miss Max, of course. Love him dearly, but I'm having so much fun. So I thought I'd paint my nails and chat. Although I feel like that's gonna require more focus than I'm capable of. I usually do everything but my thumbs first, and then I'll circle back to my thumbs, and then I'll use my thumbnail as the thing to kind of clean up the nail polish. I assume a lot of people do that. I don't know. It's it's good for me. I feel like maybe some people just have more innate grace, but I like being able to kind of fix as I go. Takes the pressure off. Anyway, we were supposed to be talking about feelings and introspection. Being in a very transitional period in my life, getting used to a new job, new work environment, new colleagues, new boss, etc., etc. I think because it's a transition period, there's inevitably anxiety and you don't want to mess up or whatever else. I thought I had some kind of imposter syndrome at the beginning, and then that kind of dissipated more quickly than I expected, which we love. Feels like growth. So that's cool, but then there's just kind of other stuff that's coming up. I found that I'm kind of falling into this pattern, and I wonder how long it's going to last, where it's at the end of every week, I feel like I'm kind of, my brain's kind of instinct, the instinct is to kind of look for the things that are going to be the problem. Because I think the whole deal with anxiety is that it's your brain thinks it's protecting you by anticipating the things that will turn out really badly. So you're looking for it, and you're focused on it, and maybe even focused on fixing it. Or maybe you have an instinct to fix it, or you have an instinct to get away from it, or whatever else. And I think that that's how my brain is kind of reacting to this situation, which is largely out of my control, still largely unknown. So, maybe that's kind of the answer. Maybe as I come to a clearer understanding of the job itself, this little pattern of fixating on one thing that I felt went wrong and kind of catastrophizing, maybe that will start to dissipate too, just as I am more aware of what the job is going to look like, what my role is going to look like, etc., etc. But anyway, it kind of pairs nicely with this book that I'm reading right now, which I'm reading for my book club, which I love this book. So shout out to Vic for picking a great one. I've already told everyone so many times. I feel like I'm being obnoxious about it. But anyway, I really like this book. It's called The Wedding People. I don't want to spoil the book for anyone who wants to read it, but essentially it's this woman who is recently divorced and is going on this kind of extravagant vacation that she's had always meant to go on. And it's kind of all this stuff that ensues there. And she's just having, I think the protagonist, herself, is very introspective and smart, and that's pretty well established, and I feel like it's established that she's pretty emotionally intelligent, or at the very least she's very good at observing and analyzing, and she just keeps having these conversations with other characters that just really beautifully kind of flesh out the human experience, and experiences with relationships, and her coping with the end of her marriage, and coming to a place in her life, and it looking a lot different than what she would have expected, and all of the kind of thoughts and feelings that come with that. One of the moments that I really liked, and I want to sit with it for longer, because I feel like I don't know, it's the longer I sit with it, the more I'm able to kind of flesh out what about it really jumps out at me. But there was this moment of dialogue with her and another character who's older, and her husband had recently passed. Okay, this is potentially spoilers, so if you're gonna read the book, it's I don't think it's so consequential, but it's I don't know, great moment in the book. So if you're gonna read the book, skip ahead here. This character was talking about her relationship and talking about how her husband was the best, and he gave her everything and was really wonderful to her. And she said specifically, like, you can't know how to love until you lose someone like that, which was a little bit confusing to me, but, like, not in a way that I'm, like, kind of writing it off, in a way that I'm, like, I would love to know more. Like, I'm very, like, what is this little insight that she's offering? And she kind of launches into a story about how when she realized essentially that she was going to be losing this husband of hers, she it kind of, you know, forced her to grapple with her own mortality and, like, look back on her life, and just looking at the things that she kind of opted out of with a more kind of critical lens of, like, why did I opt out of this? Like, life short sort of a deal. And then she, like, sought out one of those opportunities, like, you know, 30 years after the fact. And she did it, and, like, I think the idea of this story is that, like, she came to know herself better. And I think her point is that, like, she didn't start really knowing herself until she was facing the just fact that she was going to lose her husband. So I think the idea here is that, like, she entered into this marriage, she found someone who was going to take care of her and be a good husband, but it was also kind of a means for her to, like, run away from the work she needed to do on herself to, like, get to know herself better and, like, ensure she kind of, you know, sought out, like, the life that she wanted, and just, like, really came to terms with who she was and what she wants and that sort of thing. And she's basically saying that she, I think, was hiding from it by marrying this guy, hiding from the work, the self-work that she really needed to do. And it wasn't until she knew that she was going to lose him that she, like, was kind of forced into action or propelled into action to really start to understand herself and accept herself. And I guess the conceit here is that, like, now she would be able to love someone because she's, like, you know, able to love herself, able to accept herself, and, like, has done that kind of work. I don't know, like, I think the book is a little bit critical of the fact that, like, people use relationships to, like, hide from themselves, essentially. It's a little bit critical of that, but I feel like at the same time almost acknowledges that as, like, an inevitability. Or at least, like, to me, I'm like, well, that might be true, but, like, that doesn't necessarily make it wrong. Right? Like, you would need to, like, define and decide what, like, pure love and, like, that sort of thing needs to look like, and I just don't know that exists. Like, we are always kind of grappling with something and not better understanding ourselves, and that's also talked about in the book. That's, like, you don't just, like, come to a place of self-understanding. Like, you're not just, like, you know, kind of building up this, like, understanding of self over the years and just chipping away at, like, the narrative that is, you know, the embodiment of who you are or whatever, that one day you will arrive at and be like, oh yes, there I am. You know, it's kind of talking about how, no, like, you're constantly evolving and changing, and who you think you are in one moment or who you think you will be in, like, 5 years' time is just, like, always different from where you actually are. And this kind of, like, constant evolution is definitely a conceit of the book. And I think this was it was the same dialogue, like, same conversation, where the protagonist kind of has, like, an aha moment of, like, this just kind of recognition that, like, adulthood is the kind of constant acceptance of who you are as compared to who you thought you'd be. And I thought that point was really interesting because I feel like I've certainly, like, had that thought before and that observation before, but I think that I thought of it as more of, like, a single use case. You know, it's like you do that once and then you're good. But no, like, they were kind of talking about it as, like, cyclical, that, like, adulthood is kind of this, like, constant need to accept the gap between who you thought you'd be and who you are, and the gap between, like, who you thought you'd want to be and who you actually do want to be, and all of these things, which I thought was really interesting. And I also thought, like, it just kind of spoke to experiences I've kind of recognized in myself in this, like, early adulthood that kind of offered, like, clarity or, like, normalized them, you know, that it's like, oh yeah, like, that is, I think that's where that feeling is coming from. I think it's kind of this, like, confusion, honestly, about, like, who I think I'm supposed to be and who I am, and the fact that, like, you know, those two things might never intersect. And even if they did, who I want to be has changed, has evolved. So it's like, you know, you just never get to like the destination, which of course, like, I feel like everyone knows that, but it's like, it like creates a very specific feeling of like identity loss in a way where you're like, wait a minute, like, I'm not just gonna come to, well, one, like, here I am now, which like isn't exactly where I thought I was gonna be 5 years ago. What does that mean? Is that a problem? I need to mourn who I thought I would be, I guess, and accept like who I am instead. And at the same time, like, who I want to be today is not necessarily who I thought I would want to be today, like 5 years ago, if that makes sense. So it's just these kind of constant like rejiggering of expectations. And I think it like leaves in its wake a very specific feeling of like, well, for me right now, it's kind of like confusion, and like there's this desire to like fix it almost. And I think in a lot of ways, this book is about how people go about trying to fix it, even though that's not really what you're supposed to do. And how like them trying to fix it is like the source of their problems in a lot of ways. I think I'm being a little bit too abstract, but I really feel like that is kind of what the book is getting at. That it's like, you've got this like experience of adulthood that like where you're at is not necessarily where you thought it would be. Where you want to be at is not necessarily where you thought you'd want to be at, like, however many years ago, yesterday, whatever. And those gaps in, like, expectations and self-understanding and just the fact that, like, you know, your path isn't linear, that your path is not predictable, all of those things almost, like, create an anxiety, at least, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it's, like, create this anxiety that, you know, kind of prompt you to try to fix it. But the fix is in and of itself kind of like the running away from it rather than, right? That it's like you're trying to fix it rather than accepting it. So I think that's a little bit of what the book is getting at thematically. And I feel like it's a really like beautiful and like interesting thing to read. And I feel like it's just offering me lots of things to think about in my own life and perspectives to kind of try on as I like come to understand like early adulthood. You know, like I've made a couple videos about like the quarter life crisis, and I think that these topics are totally relevant to that video. And I think those videos and that experience, and I think that experience is inevitable because of this kind of theme of like adulthood, essentially, that this book is talking about. Yeah, really interesting book. And I feel like these kind of themes, right, that it's like I'm in this new job and I'm thinking about like, it wasn't exactly the expectation to be in this new different job in this specific role, and it's like the job itself is kind of forcing this acknowledgement of like, oh, but what does it mean to me that I am this role again, or this role here in my life now? What does it mean to me? Is it still something that's of interest to me? And like, you know, what makes it interesting enough? Like what makes like the day job good enough to keep it? Like what kind of delivers the blissful, I don't know, contentment that I certainly strive for in my work life. Okay, ready for a jump scare? So freaky. Okay, so it's shaping up to be a pretty productive night. I feel like I got done a lot of the things I was hoping to. I'm just doing dishes for the day, which luckily there weren't very many because we ate out for like every meal. So perks of wasting all your money on takeout. But the mask, okay, so I like watched my video. I did that for like 20 minutes because that's just kind of like the standard time that's set. It's like one of those like light masks. I think the red is supposed to be, I don't know, just good for you for some reason. The red light, but there's all sorts of greens. All sorts of lights. There's like green, blue, whatever. But it doesn't like stay on my face. For whatever reason, there's only like one head strap, and it like doesn't like keep it. I feel like I would have to like make it super tight, and it would be super uncomfortable. Anyway, so I have to hold it up. I like very rarely use this thing because honestly, it might make me break out, but I'm giving it another shot. I should also mention that these masks are like, I think, incredibly expensive. I did not purchase this. It was gifted to me by my former boss. She like, I was an executive and personal assistant, so like sometimes she would gift me things, very generous things. A perk of working alongside extremely successful people. You've both heard from me a lot and not very much in this vlog. I feel like I spoke a lot in the little like reset segment I did for my like Sunday check-in, if you will. But otherwise I feel like I haven't checked in much during the week. So I guess doing that now, but to sign off because it's now Friday, the end of yet another work week. I feel like hopefully I've shown you some good outfits. I admittedly did forget to film a few of them, so sorry about that. But yeah, this is kind of what my work life has been like. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed, definitely like and subscribe. I'm kind of figuring out my new normal now that I've got just circumstances that are entirely different in terms of how I organize my day-to-day and like what I do with my day-to-day now that I am employed again and with a new employer, yada yada yada. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you in the next one.